Ding ding, round 4 with BHA Chief Executive Nick Rust here at Bangor. It's an any other business round, quick fire questions that people will be interested in. Let me throw them at you one by one, Nick. Fixtures, is there too much racing? What can we do with what some people perceive to be a bloated fixture list? Your hands are tied to a certain extent.
There's not too much racing given that we have to serve people who want to go racing and bookmakers. It does need reform for the future, and I believe the sports participants, the racecourses and ourselves are interested in moving that forward while we have the opportunity over the next year with more money coming into the sport.
Fixed odds betting terminals. It's now estimated that high street bookies make up to half the profits on these machines. Are you comfortable with the fact that British racing rides on the back of such a destructive form of gambling?
Well, I don't know if it's a destructive form of gambling. You know, we have to read the actual sort of evidence on that. I'm not sure we do completely ride on the back of that, as some people assert. More money is made from those machines in shops that are performing well than is at the bottom end. And you know, if any action was taken by the government, you know, it could threaten betting shops. Yes, and it's important that we keep betting shops open. But British racing has to stand on its own 2 feet.
Non-triers, hot topic. Timeform chasers and hurdlers. I quote, racing has to rely on the vigilance of and expertise of local stewards who all too often, especially in Britain, turn a blind eye or actually seem blind to non-triers. Thousands of punters agree with that view. Are they dead wrong?
Well, look, I think Timeform are experts, aren't they? At the end of the day, you work for them.
I think we've had enough of experts, as Michael Gold said.
They know what they're talking about, and they will want to question rides. The issue is that we have to question them. We have to prove it as well. We have to be able to make something stick. The year up until September this year, we had 502 inquiries about poor performance on the racecourse, 162 formal inquiries, 16 suspensions arose from that. We're trying to up our game on it. We're looking at things in head office afterwards as well to try and make sure that we focus on poor rides. We want to get hold of it.
Interference, it's a bugbear of mine. It's not going to change. But the rules on interference clearly lean so hard in favour of allowing a winner to keep the race. Are you comfortable with that?
No, I think the alternative in France, I don't think punters here would accept that if there is any interference, whether it would have affected the result or not, the placings get altered. I don't think that's our culture here. What we do need to do, however, is make sure that they aren't blatantly ignored, and that will, I'm afraid, mean that we need to look at tougher penalties in the most blatant of cases.
One quick line on that Haydock Fog episode last weekend.
Well, it's all unclear, Graham, but
it certainly is.
Look, we're looking at our guidelines on that. We have some guidelines where we say you should be able to see one obstacle ahead and so on. And I think that we were taken a bit by surprise by how quickly it came down at the end. There were no problems really until then. The jockeys at the start were asked, and they said they wanted to race. But it shouldn't be up to them in a sense. We should make sure we've got our procedures in place, and we're looking at that right now.
You're a punter in a past life. You've liaised.
Just can't bet on British racing.
Exactly. You've liaised closely with the Horse Race Betters Forum.
Yep.
Good progress has been made. The one hot topic that punters go on about, account restrictions. What would you like to see as a punter and as a bureaucrat as well? What would you like to see to help that situation?
Well, I think it's one of those things that is being looked at anyway through the Competition Markets Authority's announcement recently. But I think when we get beyond the levy replacement, when we look at the new relationship with betting that will develop, and when we start to say we expect to do these things to help you with your business, we might ask them, you know, what can you do? Can you give us data? What assurances can you give punters? There are some good firms out there giving minimum bets to all people. There are ways to do this, and we want people to be able to bet on our sport.
Touched on lots of negatives, as is the way of these interviews. How healthy is British racing as a whole, in your view?
Well, I think if we can get the replacement for the levy, which will help put the sport on a secure footing, then we're in good shape for growth. We are the second biggest spectator sport. There was a near record attendance last year at British racecourses. We are seeing betting on racing grow, despite what some of the speculations around. The official Gambling Commission figures are showing that betting on British racing is growing, and that's against a trend around the world. So on that side of things, but we're probably about the number 11 or 12 sport in terms of sporting interests, and I think we've got a long way to go to help make sure that our sport is relevant to the newer generation.
Major rewrite of the rule book is slated for 2017. What's top of the agenda?
Simplicity. I think that one of the rules of racing is that you must understand all of the rules of racing, and what's top of my mind is that if you walk into our stewards room here today, Graham, or any other stewards room, there is a copy of the rules there. They don't know all the rules without referring to them. We have to simplify it. We have to make sure that the categories are pretty clear, and reflecting on the best case again, we need to make sure that it's absolutely clear that about which rules are being broken and that the wrongdoing is managed.
Finally, around about 2 years on the BHA hot seat, and it has been hot. It's Christmas time. If I give you 3 professional wishes for 2017, what would they be, Nick?
Well, the levy replacement in April. The new judicial panel chair, who we're announcing today, is Brian Barker QC, has his new team up and running, and that the participants have confidence in the new system moving forwards. And probably finally that we make real progress in terms of growing the sport, growing betting on the sport.
Well, if you can't make a wish at Christmas time, you never can. Many thanks to BHA Chief Executive Nick Russ for his time. I hope we've learned a good bit about Jim Best, ABPs, and lots of other things. Back to you in the studio.